Hello students, today we are going to see a new poem. Name of the poem is The Builders, written by Henry Longfellow. Henry Longfellow is a famous poet in America and he attended a local Portland Academy when he was 6 years old, and when he was 13 years old he published his first poem. It was called The Battle of Lovell's Pond. He published his first collection of poetry, Voices of the Night, in 1839, as well as his prose romance work named Hyperion. So we find that uh, Henry Longfellow had a poetic sense and poetic sensibility right from his childhood. And the present poem, The Builders, is all about noting down or discussing how every little thing, every little idea, every little happening, or a lovely event in the history of the humankind has added to the prosperous growth of the humankind as we see today. We find that the world has been changing leaps and bounds every now and then, but have you ever wondered whether these all happenings are caused by little ideas and little works, perhaps little teamworks, which have been transforming this world into a big, surprising event? And this is to be known to all that right from the beginning, even the smallest discoveries and inventions made by even the local people, those who did not have any scientific knowledge or they did not have any technical knowledge about it, perhaps they did not have any theories onto their mind, but they tried certain things anew, and we find that these little experiments have added further to a big miraculous happenings that have supported the human progress over all these years. It has been hundreds of years, and we all are tracing the prospective progress of human race, and we find that right from perhaps the first day when human race began to understand the social life or perhaps the practices of agriculture or understanding relationships or exchange of thoughts, kinds, goods, some sort of commercial activity, social activity. There were political formations, and some people also began to write something about the happenings of the human race and everything that was covered under human life. There are famous poets who also tried to write about the forests. In English literature, we find that there is a major category of romantic writers. These all writers prefer to write something about the nature and its influence of human life. They also tried their hands on how human life, God, and nature are interconnected to each other. That was not wonderful because they had a sense of making everything into a poetic lines, and they tried to find out the probable sources from where all these things can be connected to each other. This is not only the human knowledge where people found certain new things, they made miraculous discoveries or they invented certain things. There was a lot of progress in the field of science, technology, sociological studies. Even some psychoanalysts like Sigmund Freud tried to give new dimensions to the simple concepts of dream and human sensibilities. So we find that everything has added to the human growth, everything has added to widen the horizons of human knowledge. And it is really a fantastic idea to know our own childhood. Just remember your own childhood, how little things you tried at your home, or might be when you were in courtyard and your parents shouted at you that, oh, don't do these things, okay, and you just were you were just in a frolicking manner. You didn't understand that what those certain things meant to you, and not neither the parents even know what little things you were doing, and whether this could be added to something new that would perhaps change the world. And now we find that when we begin to discuss that whether all these little tiny things or smaller happenings have really added to the growth of the human race, the answer is a big yes. And yes, why not? Because all these things which we see today standing tall, if in case of the buildings, if we are riding a vehicle, if we are in a four-wheeler car, if you are passing through a railway carriage, if we are taking a flight into aeroplane, if you see a rocket landing on moon, these are all the happenings which have added to the human growth. And just imagine if none of these things were ever discovered, the world would have been a completely unwanted scene for everybody else. Now also we find that newspapers flashing, several new ideas and inventions, smaller inventions even made by the school children, and they are later patented or they are asked by these scientific laboratories to connect with. And it is just a matter of surprise that how could a little brain of a child could think of such a big ideas. So we find that we all are passing through a world where every little thing is adding to the existing human growth. We are now into the 21st century, and we find that even the discovery of a radio connectivity device that that can be fitted into a pocket, that can be used for texting a message, that can be used for calling somebody. That was the basic version of mobile phone. But nowadays we find that a mobile phone does everything. You can send across multimedia files, you can send across scanned documents, you can send across voice recordings, you can send across calls. These are also used for hotlines and whatnot. So we find that these things have been discovered in due course of time. And let us also understand and never forget that there have been multitudes of efforts, multitude of attempts that have always been a failure. But failure teaches us the best path to success. And that is what the story behind everything. If we consider, just imagine there was no zero at all, and think about the zeros which are put, while we quote a particular amount. If there was no zero, how could be an amount ever quoted? So we find that even a nonetheless thing like zero has a very very significant place in case of commerce, of course in daily life also. If you try to know the first few things which have added to the human growth, let us consider the practice of farming. The first ever farming practices which were perhaps experimented for, just imagine that were imagined for 10 years long. Human being considered the seasons, human being considered the seeds, human being considers the season to sow them and to reap, kept waiting for a perfect season, and then had a particular schedule when a particular seed should be sown and when particular grains are to be cropped off. Isn't this is interesting to know. We know how an engine which runs on steam was invented by James Watt. He was just preparing a cup of tea into a boiler, a little utensil found everywhere in the kitchen, and he was surprised to see that the steam was trying to push the what we can say the lid of the boiler away every time when there, whenever there was an extreme amount of gas into it. That prompted him the idea that an engine or an automated locomotive can be made, or certain motors can be generated which would be used in the industrial mills. And that's how we have a steam engine running on the railway platforms that made almost more than 100 years journey, and later on we went on to locomotives operated by diesel, and now it's everywhere electrical engines. So from steam to diesel, and from diesel to electric, and now in the 21st century we have super loops. Okay, now there is no steam required, no diesel required, no electricity required. It is just a loop that works, that pushes the entire capsule of travelers at a greater speed only because there is certain pressure conditions. Okay, meanwhile we had one railway carriage which run on leviating principle. The wheels, I mean, there are no wheels. The locomotive moves on the principles of leviating. That means principles of magnetic field. So this is all very interesting. This is all very, we can say, a periodic growth that has prompted human life into a greater leap to see beyond. And every time there is a new event, we find that people immediately begin to think beyond that, and we get the next new generation of progress that we call the human achievement. Okay, so when we discuss this poem by Henry Longfellow, Longfellow actually wants to notice every little thing which is added by, even not only by the technocrats, not only by the engineers, by doctors or by professionals, but even by the poets or the sociologists or people uh, just uh, who just thought about a particular idea and passed it on to the next generation as a piece of knowledge. Longfellow likes the idea to consider all these people. He actually wants us not to get, what we can say is not to get fashioned by all those big minds, but there is equal and integral presence of all those people who ever wanted to supply little things that were always needed by the big minds. Okay, so human growth is a combined result of all these little things and the big minds, or sometimes little minds and big things, vice versa. We can consider that a perfect, we can say, a graph of human race, which is colored by the additions and supply, or we can say combinations or support of every being on this earth, is considered by the poet. And when we go by the text, we will find that Longfellow doesn't remain away from every little thing that he has considered while writing this poem. And what are those little things? We are going to see in the text. There are one or more things you should consider. For example, the practice of vaccination. Now it's COVID pandemic, and since last 8 or 9 months, we are now in December 2020. The lockdown started on March 22, 2020, and it has been more than 8 9 months that we are struggling to get a particular vaccine. The world is busy to discover a particular vaccine which will counterattack the pandemic, the coronavirus. Okay, and yet the results are far dreaming. We everyday news read in the news or in the newspapers or at the TV channels that a particular vaccine is being launched against COVID-19, but yet all these things are in the experimental stage. So we find that the first vaccine which would be released for public use will also be an experiment. But that little vaccine would pave new way for development of a perfect vaccine that will save the world from all such incoming pandemics in the future, isn't this? So we had some stories like presence of zero, steam engine, practices of farming, vaccination, and if you are interested in watching Discovery Channel, it focuses on sometimes there is a series on 100 things that have changed the world, and you will find that even a pin that we fix on a paper, a U pin or a single pin, or sometimes as common thing as a sellotape, that is a transparent tape we generally use for pasting anything, even that is featured in the list of 100 things that have changed the world. And Discovery also tells us that a simple and a very simple thing like sellotape was first used by the military operations because they needed a particular tape that would fix and would also sustain all the lower or higher temperatures wherever the territory is. So we get a perfect message that things which appear common around us, they are also very significant, and Longfellow wants to include all these happenings into his poem. And let us just go by the text of the poem. I am giving you the few lines of introduction. The Builders by Longfellow describes a speaker's view on the contributions made to the history of the human race. The perfect word is contributions. Longfellow is of the opinion that all people, great or otherwise, what does it mean? Otherwise, but great or otherwise. Things could be great or things could be lesser known. They might not be great, but they are in the list of contributors. He is he is also thoughtful about one's deeds, and he feels that every deed by every human being is significant. You just can't say that some people are engaged in useless activities. It is possible that some people might really be engaged in useless activities, but they are seen from my point of view that the things which a particular individual is doing is useless. But you would never know that perhaps those useless activities might build up another thing which could be someday very, very useful. You might not know why things are happening like so or why does an individual behaves like it. Okay. But each behavior, each happening is considered as an useful activity that adds up to the progress of the humankind. A collective memory should be maintained if one is to truly appreciate humankind's history. A collective memory that will include the great and the non-great or lesser known things. Both things will be there. Like builders of the past, one should do their task and not care about the end result. What happens? Longfellow wishes to give you a message that, excuse me, we should be careful about every contribution made to the human race. We should be conscious about the growth and progress of the human race that is completely dependent on each little activity contributed in the due course of time, and that has made the human history. When we read a subject like anthropology, you would find that most of the things which are included in the study might be very, very boring for all of us because we are in a techno related century. Everything happens around us is based on some or the other kind of technology. But even the basic invention of a wheel, maybe 5,000 years before, now a wheel doesn't seem to be a great discovery, but just imagine a world which was 5,000 years ago then. And the first discovery or first use of wheel in case of farming or traveling or in any other case was just a great wonder. Human race did not know even how to preserve or create fire. But just by striking two pieces of stone, the early man could discover that there could be some sparks of fire and that could be used at human will. I mean, whenever you need, you can strike those two pieces of stone and create some of the other fire chunks. That was great thing. Today it has got no importance because creating fire is a common activity. In fact, the discovery of a matchbox, the chemical which is pasted on both the sides of a matchbox, also took several years. Earlier, people had only matchsticks. They did not have that matchbox. And the matchsticks were to be struck against a particular chemical or a chemical pasted on a surface, and that was very dangerous to carry on in the pockets. But somehow there were changes, and now it is very easy to carry a matchbox. It's a very simple story, but we find that each little story has its own significance, and even today, instead of wondering on how this could have been made, we just keep on using it incessantly. We don't think over it. But Longfellow is considerable about all those happenings. Further, he says, like builders of the past, one should do their task and not care about the end result. Only God is privy to an all encompassing view of things. So, here we find that there is a faith on the existence of God, and Longfellow wants to convey you that you keep on doing everything whatever you wish to, one or the other day that particular thing would be of too good use to human. So let us not consider the end result. Let us just be careful about the doings and not the results. And one or the other day, the God is going to reward you for all the useful things. Let us say discoveries or inventions, whatever. What you have contributed is you have helped the existing human race to build a new world. And that is what the title is, The Builders. So let us go to the text of the poem. Every stanza is of 4 lines. The first line says, all are architects of fate. Fate is fortune. Architects, that means the builders. We all know how to design our fate. Everybody, we all are given a particular course of life. Some people are born in a rich family, some are in a middle class, some are in poor, some are born in cities, some are born in villages, some are born in even jungles like Gachibowli. We have so many places around us where there is no electricity yet, there is no mobile connectivity. There are millions of people who haven't seen yet how does a railway carriage runs on the rails. They haven't seen a flying aeroplane. There is no connectivity. There are no schools. So many things are there which are not seen by the existing population yet. Let us not wonder over the facilities we have because they all are served by somebody else too. If you have created one out of those all, it's really a great news. Okay. Working in these walls of time, a perfect metaphor. What is a wall of time? Wall of time is the period of life we spend on this earth with everybody else. Some with massive deeds and great, and some with only ornaments of life. What does the world remember? The world remembers the great deeds only. Even in schools and colleges, we are asked to write essays on, excuse me, great Indian politician, great Indian philosopher, great Indian sociologist, great Indian author, great world leader. So everywhere there are stories of great people. And what about the people, those who haven't done great things? They are always there, but nobody considers them. What Longfellow wants us to suggest is on the walls of time, every little thing has added to the existing progress. If you see that there are great things happening around us, they are all based on the little things that have happened before this great thing has come, isn't this? Of course, everything needs a foundation, and this foundation is laid by all these little things that we often ignore. Nobody wants to consider. There are no topics, there are no discussions on the little things. Everybody wants to talk about what is great. Today, we find that there are high rising buildings, skyscrapers in Mumbai, in megacities, throughout the world. There are skyscrapers as higher as 101 stories. But has anybody considered how did it all begin? In the most early settlements, there were only houses made in thatching. Then there were some potteries. Then came up, some cement-based constructions. Then there were stories. Earlier, people tried only 2 stories, then four, then 10, and now there are 100 stories buildings. So the base of the 101-story building is always in relation with the first building that had no story at all. It was just a house. So this is the fundamental of human life. What Longfellow wants to convey is that on the walls of time, that means when the human history is written or will be continued to write, continued to be written, every little thing will be taken into consideration that how all these things have come up. Everybody has left his or her mark in the society, in the friend circle, among the relatives, in the schools, in the colleges where you study, everybody leaves his or her own impression to the teachers, to the principal, to the organization where you work, or to the boss. Isn't it? Sometimes even you become a boss and you try to receive the impressions from the other employees. You collect every happening on the wall of time. So this is how Longfellow wants to explain what is a wall of time. Some with massive dates, massive, great. I mean, at some places we'll find that people have been beyond greatness. You remember there are, world famous examples of the emperors and kings and queens. We will not go into the details, but you all know that there have been Roman emperors, Roman kings. There are Indian emperors, there are Indian kings, there are queens also. And later on, now there are politicians who are making themselves big. They are great. They are making massive impressions on the population. Great deeds happen. And everybody wants to remember this one. Like we find that a war is always remembered. And what about the soldiers who fight the war? Nobody remembers. It's only one or two, a few soldiers who are remembered that they have done something very, very great in the war. We find that a multitude of soldiers who lay down their life to win a war are never remembered. Longfellow wants to say that even a little step taken by that soldier who advanced an inch further towards the battlefield prompted other soldiers to move 10 inches faster and further. But who is remembered? The one who is seen at the line of the battlefield, the one who had advanced an inch previous to him, is never remembered. Let us not be ignorant about this. Let us not forget them all. The last line of the first stanza, some with ornaments of rhyme. Now, this is indicated to the poets, basically to the writers, who do not do great things, they write great things. Even they have contributed great poetry. Most often, the poetry is written on human behavior, human history, farming, and festivals, relationships, happenings like marriages, birth of a child, etc. These are all the connected subjects of human life, and these are all handled by the poets today also. Isn't it interesting to know that when a new child is to be christened, yet there are mothers who sing on the particular day of christening. This this particular custom is highly old, say 100 years at least. It is continued, and you can't say no to it because there would be no joy of festivity unless you sing a song on the day of Christmas. Even in the marriages, there is always a group of people who prefer to sing. Basically, they celebrate the event. These celebrations have been there in the human history since many, many years and ages. And these songs have been provided by these men of rhymes, men or women of rhymes, that means the poets, who had poetic sensibility and who decided to celebrate life's events. Next stanza is nothing useless is or low. The first line also gives you a very, very clear idea that there is nothing which can be considered that this is less or this is low or this is useless at all. Each thing in its place is best, and what seems but idle show strengthens and supports the rest. First two lines, nothing useless is or low, each thing in its place is best. Everything, I mean, you know that particular saying, one man's meat is another man's poison. A particular thing may be very, very suitable to you, but it should not be considered ever that this should suit others also. It can't happen because one thing may be particular suitable to one particular individual who has that particular bent of mind. For others, it is not suitable. So never ever just get stubborn over a particular thing that this should happen or this should only happen. It's not going to happen that way. And what seems but idle show, we talked in the beginning in the introduction of the poem that there can be certain activities which would be considered completely useless, but they are never like that. And those idle shows strengthen and support the rest. It means that every little thing, even as idle as anything, also supports a particular moment of joy, a particular happening of human race. The third stanza: for the structure that we raise, time is with materials filled. For the structures, this structure doesn't indicate the structures we build in the form of buildings or anything that we build. But this is actually building of human history, building of human race. For the structure that we raise, time is with materials filled. What you require whenever you wish to build a relationship, what you require whenever you wish to build an organization, what you require whenever you wish to build a particular thing that should be considered great, you require support from time. It is the perfect and suitable moment of time that only allows you to have certain things becoming great. Most often we find people talking around, yeah, I tried my hands on a particular thing, but the time was not suitable. This is what Longfellow wants to indicate. Time should never be ignored, and we should all wait for a particular moment of time only to float our ideas and build them into reality. Our todays and yesterdays are the blocks with which we build. We know simplest stories of discovery of a lamp that we have nowadays in our houses. Simplest discoveries of knitting a yarn. Simplest discoveries of making clothes. Simplest discoveries of cooking particular food. They have all been tried yesterdays in the long past. And from that moment onwards, it was all the practices and lots of experiments on that particular habit, custom, happening, event now has made a polished form. You never know that what is a perfect form. You will have to go back to the yesterday of human life, and then only you will get to know that, oh, this was the perfect form then, but now the perfect form is changed. So nothing is stable, everything is impermanent, as suggested by Buddha. In this world, everything is impermanent, everything changes. A child is born, becomes a youth, then there is oldhood, and a particular, let us say, unfortunate moment, he dies. You cannot hold on to time, you cannot revert it back. You always have to respect time, for it is the time who allows you to build your life. It makes and destroys. It's of course up to you how do you wish to use time. Truly shape and fashion these, leave no yawning gaps between. Think not, because no man sees such things will remain unseen. What the poet wants to say is all these yesterdays and todays, these walls of time are shaping the fashion of life, and they leave no yawning gaps between them. It's of course, it's you and me, it's somebody else who suggests you a particular frame of time, and there are gaps of time for the reason that we make it. It is not the clock on the wall. It is not the watch on your wrist. It is not the sun that revolves around the earth creates any gap. It is continual. There is no gap. If there were gaps, it was the gaps of activities. If there were gaps, it was the gaps of doing nothing. What Longfellow says is there are no yawning gaps between the walls of time. They all are continual. You need to be continuously actively engaged yourself into doing one or the other thing. Think not, because no man sees such things will remain unseen. And let us never be into that impression that a particular thing will never be seen. Let us never be in that impression, because in the first, in the introduction only, Longfellow says that it is the God who is privy unto all these things. It is the God who notices these things. You are never, you should never go disappointed. You should never go sorrowful because certain things don't happen as you wish. Wait for the perfect moment. Wait for a perfect day to rise where your efforts will be continuously awarded by people, by nature, by God, by teachers, by your parents, by everyone. Let us not get into haste. Let us allow little time unless it ripens, unless it comes to its fullest form. And then only it will be seen by everyone. In the elder days of art, builders wrought with greatest care each minute and unseen part, for the gods see everywhere. Longfellow is giving, continuous references to the gods because he might be the one who believes in the pure existence of the God, and he might be crediting all these happenings to God. We have nothing to do with his attitude towards God, okay? But we are trying to understand how all these things are happening on the earth. It is perhaps Longfellow wants to suggest that for everything that we do on the earth, it is the God's own promptings that suggest us certain ideas, that suggest us, certain instrument, that suggest us certain balls of time when to do what. If we consider the earlier arts and pictures, the carvings on the stones, you will find that there are fine carvings. When a lady was to be carved in a stone, even each strand of hair was also carved, sometimes in marble or sometimes on a rough uh, piece of stone. Worldwide, there are such carvings. Pyramids in Egypt are the greatest human wonder. Nobody knows how those massive sized stones were carried to the top of the structure of the pyramid. Everybody wonders about it. But if you try ever to find out, you will get the solution to the question. But it is yet not answered that how did it all happen. People say that the Egyptians were 6.5 feet tall and they had massive strength in their arms, and that's only they could have, that arrangements up to the top of the sky. They might have a certain different arrangements of carrying those stones to the top of the structure. Nobody knows it because nobody has seen it. But it is the God who could see everything. It is the God who has made the records. Anthropologists could only store the pictures and they had their own ideas about how this massive structure would have come up in those early days when there was no engineering and no massive machines as we have today to carry the stones to the top of the structure. These were all the assumptions. These are all the guessings. Nobody knows it. And therefore, Longfellow says that these were the elder days of the art. Elder means the yesterdays of art. Builders wrought. Wrought is actually the designed. Wrought is designed with greatest care each minute and unseen part. If they had to just carve a flower, they would be very, very careful even to carve a, a grain on the, at the center of the flower. If they had certain things like to carve, say for example, of butterfly, they used natural colors, a combination of leaves and flowers taken from the nature itself. If you go to that carvings of Ajanta, you will find that there are yet, those colors are yet preserved. It has been hundreds of years and the colors haven't faded yet. Marvelous combination of colors. Marvelous technology then. The only thing is we couldn't see it. We are just reading them in the pages of books. Longfellow directly attracts our attention to all these happenings and makes us conscious that even these things are very, very important to know today. In simple words, knowing yesterday is very important today. Let us do our work as well as the earlier men have done. Both the unseen and the seen make the house where gods may dwell beautiful, entire, and clean. Longfellow wants to suggest how should a house be designed. It should be beautiful, entire, and clean. What does it suggest? These three terms: beautiful by appearance, entire, encompassing all, everyone that makes a family. What we do is we build a house, and with the members of family coming in, it is transformed into a home. That is the difference. A house is purely built in brick, cement, etc. But that is always called a house unless there are people living. We find a house as a home. Others may call that this is a house, but when you refer to your own house, you call it home. The difference, isn't this? We immediately get to know that the house is no more house. It is transformed into a home because you live in there and clean. It doesn't suggest anything about cleanliness. It suggests absence of conflict among the members who are living in the house. It is the God who has designed this world free of conflict. It is the men who have created the conflict. If we take a larger conception of the simple word like house or home, Longfellow might be suggesting the complete world, the earth as a home, where there should be no conflict, no conflicts. There should be no quarrels, there should be no doubts, there should be no killings, there should be no feelings of jealousy, there should be no distancing of relationships. Let us all be together and make this house, for example, the earth, a beautiful place to live in. But when it will happen? When we remember that the earlier men had little or perhaps no conflict among themselves, and then only they could beautiful things. They could create beautiful things, they could build beautiful residences. Egypt's pyramids are just not a piece of architectural building, it is a piece of beauty. When people happen to see them personally, the first thing they appreciate about it is the triangular shape, which is perfectly beautiful. It is not the stones that people are talking about, it is the shape. The difference of attitude. Some people might talk about those massive stones also. Well, I mean, there could be some people, those who do not have any sense of beauty. I mean, if you wish them a plant of rose, the first thing they would come out is, oh, there are thorns. And there could be several who would, appreciate, oh, plant of rose. This is the difference that we should know. Else, our lives are incomplete. If the house is not beautiful, entire, and clean, our lives will be incomplete. Longfellow warns us how to create a complete life. A complete life can be guaranteed only when it is beautiful, it is entire, and it is clean, completely free of conflicts and quarrels. Standing in these walls of time, broken stairways where the feet stumble as they seek to climb. Stumble? People may fall down from the walls of time. If they create conflicts, there would be no perfection of relationships. If they fight with each other, there would be no perfect relationship with each other. And then a place called home would be reversely transformed into a house that would carry no significance in the life of human being. You know, each new day gives you an opportunity to climb high, but it doesn't mean that you should also you should also start forgetting the yesterdays. Longfellow warns us at times that it is those yesterdays who suggest you how to build today. Let us not have a cutthroat competition. Let us not have quarrels. Let us not have conflicts, else the structure of human history will collapse. If we keep on fighting with people, the race would one or the other day vanish from the earth. And then there would be no joy of living. there would be no lives, there would be only loneliness. And that is just not a moment of joy for anyone. Broken stairways where the feet stumble as they seek to climb. What is a broken stairway? A broken stairway suggests the gap between human growth and development. If there are people, those who are in hurry to build things one after another, in a continuous manner, forgetting what the older days have to teach them, of course there would be gaps. And these gaps would never be considered in the walls of time. And then you would be in oblivion. Build today, then strong and sure, with a firm and ample base, and ascending and secure. So there are so many words which give you a very, very clear line about how a human life should be lived. Shall tomorrow find its place? I'm counting. Build today, then strong, sure, firm, ample, ascending, secure. These many terms. These words actually encompass a perfect layout of a human life. Everybody likes a happy human life, but what are the parameters? What are those aspects and what are those features which are required to have a peaceful, happy life? Longfellow gives us the list of every feature. See, what should be a human life? It should be firm and with ample base. A firm is what? That should have a strong foundation and should not shake when there are some inadvertent situations. So the foundation needs to be very, very strong. They should be on ample basis. Ample does mean that there is a larger space required in order to have a stronger foundation. And this stronger foundation can only be taken from the yesterdays. You will never find these ample bases on the mornings of today. You should take it them all from the yesterdays. And ascending, rising high and secure. At the same time, it should be very, very protected. Now, protected from what? Protected not from the season's fury, protected not from the earthquakes, protected not from the rising storms in the sea. It should be protected from the human jealousies. It should be protected from the quarrels, from the wars, from the conflicts, from any undoing or untoward incident that you never wished to happen into your life. This, this is the secure life. Shall tomorrow find its place? Longfellow is very much sure about that if we plan our lives into this manner, how? When we take foundations from the yesterday's lessons, when we respect everyone, when we have a very cordial relationship with everyone, when we have friends and well-wishers around us, that makes a happy life. And that will be the true gain of the day today, based on the gains of the yesterday. Thus alone can be attained to those turrets where turret is a small tower on top of a larger tower. That is actually a part of architecture building. To those turrets where the eye sees the world as one vast plain. On the plains, it's my home, it's your home, it is somebody else's home. From a place from where you can see a complete bird's eye view of your city. When you rise to the sky, you happen to see beyond cities. When you happen to see a telescopic picture of the earth, you just find the planet and you cannot locate where your city and your home is. Let us have a larger attitude. What Longfellow wants to suggest is this larger attitude helps us to understand the world much better. Understanding home, relationships, family, friends, everybody is significant. Equally significant is to understand the world around us, because that gives us the feelings of belongingness to this world, and then only we stay back, we step aside, we prefer to stay away from the conflicting areas. And the more we stay away from the conflicting areas, more happy we go in our daily lives. Sees the world where the eye sees the world as one vast plain and one boundless reach of sky. He compares that how things happen in our life. It is the plane or it is the planet that gives us the sense of perfect beauty, the sense of oneness, the sense of being one with everybody else, the picture of the earth, the picture of your house, which is now a home because you are there with your family, gives you a picture of oneness with the family, with your home. If you have a sense of belonging to your city, that will give you another or additional sense of oneness to the city. When you reach to the height, when you happen to see the planet as one good place to live, you will have a perfect sense of belonging, an integral relationship that you would like to cherish in your memory for generations together to come. Longfellow's suggestion with this poem to consider yesterday's builders is highly significant in case if you wish to build something new today. Unless you take into consideration what were the yesterdays, you cannot create the todays. If you wish to build something more beautiful than yesterday, let us visit what was the concept of beauty yesterday. If you are creating a massive build up structure today, you will have to go back to the structures of the yesterday. And of course, you all can join hands together to build structures even more massive than the pyramids in Egypt. But for that, you will have to forget the personal jealousies. You will have to forget the conflicting areas. You will have to stay back and away from whatever prompts you to fight with people, to consider people on the features of their gender, to consider people on the features of their caste, their religion, the places of living, the color of skin. These are all the things which keep you and me away from most of the beautiful minds. Once we are away from all of this, yes, you become a global citizen, and that global citizenship only leads your path to the new, perhaps a newer today. But by the time we begin to build a newer and a beautiful today for the human race, let us not be forgetful about the builders who were there in the yesterday. So this poem by Henry Longfellow gives us a complete idea of how this human life has been built into a beautiful human appearance today we have, how all the places have been protected, have all the carvings been made available to you so that you can get to know the glory of the earlier times. We should be thankful to Longfellow for creating a very, very beautiful picture in this poem and also making us aware of the happenings of the yesterday and their significance. Thank you very much. We shall meet in another new session with a new poem. Thank you again.